Good morning and welcome to Morning Movie News. I apologize that today's episode is a little late, but yesterday was my dad's birthday and we partied hard. Also, let me give you an update on the status of Frozen as a potential gift for my dad. As you might recall, he missed it in theaters, so I was considering getting him the Blu-ray for his birthday or a subscription to the Disney Digital Entertainment Service, movies, shorts, etc., that they're pushing very hard. So I asked you what you thought I should do, and you guys are actually pretty evenly split. Some of you thought a physical copy would be nice to actually have, and I could put a bow on it, and some of you thought the digital service would be nice because, not only my father, but my whole family could watch these movies anywhere. But then some of you offered a third option, which is what we actually went with. And I say we because it incorporates my whole family. And some of you said, Grace, you didn't like Frozen, so why should you spend money on it? Why should you contribute more money to the cause? Although Frozen has certainly plenty of money already. It doesn't need my money. But you guys said, why don't you have your sister or your mother buy it for your father because they actually enjoyed the film. So that's what happened. My sister bought him the Blu-ray. He watched it. His mini review is that while he didn't like the character animation, he wasn't crazy about the music, and he thought the story was a little sloppy, he really liked the overall animation, the settings, the landscapes and such, the universe that was created in the film. And he really enjoyed the ending. He thought it was very action-packed, and he enjoyed the twists, with Hans and Anna, that act of true love. So he said that at the end of the day, he liked the film. He had a positive feeling about it. And that's not only a good lesson is that you should always end your film on a high note, hit them with your good stuff up front and at the end, and they will stick around and then leave happy. I think that's a good formula for success with any presentation, or any project. And then also, I think that's how most people feel about Frozen. I think my dad's in the majority. I think that there are some people who feel it's flawless. There are some people who don't get it, like myself. But I think the big chunk and what's made Frozen do so well is that everyone goes, you know what, it has problems, but I like certain elements of it so much that I support it and have a good feeling about the film. So I think that's what's powered Frozen to be the #1 animated film of all time in terms of box office. And I think the same argument can be made for Avatar. Another thing that's flawed, but I think there are elements of it that are so fresh and so new that some people, and a majority of people, enjoyed so much that it rose above its problems. And I guess whenever you're pushing the edge of the envelope, you break a few eggs. Oh, look at all my metaphors or sayings that I've just thrown together there. But anyway, that's what happened with Frozen for the Randolph family, and I'll have you know that the Blu-ray is now a part of our holiday movie collection. All right, so let's go on to today's stories. Today is kind of going to be an extended episode of Movie Math because I want to continue our conversation from yesterday about Captain America, the Winter Soldier, and its box office so far and its potential here in the United States and globally. Also, Marvel's, release strategy, global versus domestic, etc. I actually found 3 stories that all have to do with box office and movie ticket sales, etc., and the viewer question. Let's talk about Captain America. That's what spurred the idea for this whole episode. Because I talked about the fact that Captain America opened overseas this past weekend in 32 markets. That's quite a number of markets. It feels, I have to say, like everyone has seen the movie but America. I love the fact that so many of you have written me saying, when is your review going to go up? I want to hear what your thoughts are. I really appreciate that. But it's frustrating to be so late to the party. I'm not fashionably late. I have a time ticket, and I'm stuck outside here while I can hear everybody having a great time inside, and it sucks. So more on that in a moment. But let's talk about Captain America's box office potential. Now, it's predicted to open here anywhere from 85 to 100 million. I think 100 million is the optimistic outlook. I think 85 is the safe bet because that's what Thor: The Dark World did in its opening weekend. And I think maybe in the 60s is the pessimistic outlook. So let's talk about why each would happen. Now, 85, obviously, because that's what Thor: The Dark World opened with. That's arguably your base Marvel fandom. Iron Man 3 opened with, I believe, about 174 for its opening weekend, but that's bringing in people who aren't, your core Marvel group. I'm talking about, like the minimum that Marvel can expect. And 85 million for a minimum opening is pretty darn good. So that might be what happens with Captain America 2 if it comes in at 85. I think that's what that will mean, that Marvel can count on about $85 million worth of people to always turn up for their films. Now, if it hits 100, that's because the word of mouth is fantastic, especially from overseas viewers. You guys are doing what Marvel wants. You guys are on the internet saying, this is an amazing movie, you have to see it. And we're all like, I gotta go, I gotta go. A lot of advance tickets have been sold here in the United States. So I think that's what could potentially happen. And also the strategy that they have been clearly using here is to strongly build off of the Avengers for this Captain America sequel. So I think it would push it to around 100 if that were to pay off. Now, the reason I think it might even end up in the 60s, or it might not reach, in the long run, it might not reach $1 billion. Some of you actually said yesterday in the comments you didn't believe that Captain America 2 could reach $1 billion despite all this hype. The reason I think it might be a little low is that, well, I am excited to see this movie, and I think a lot of comic book fans are, and that core Marvel fandom, as I said, that 85 million or maybe less, are very excited to go. What I've noticed is that when I talk to people who aren't into comics who are casual Marvel movie fans, they're not that into it. I usually, I go to the movies a lot with my family. They got me into movies in the first place. And while my dad is going to see Captain America with me, my mother opted out. She just did not want to go. She just said, I feel the trailer doesn't look good, so I don't want to see another bad movie. She's seen some bad movies lately, she just doesn't want to go. So, and I've been talking to some other people here at the office who aren't huge Marvel fans, and they're like, you know what, I do want to see Captain America, but I have to see some other movies I've missed. I want to see Noah. It's not first on my list. So I found that shocking. I was like, how can Captain America the Winter Soldier not be first on someone's list? Because it's like really high on my list. I mean, a lot of us are saying summer is starting early, and this is a great example of utilizing the entire calendar, that it's not the weekend that makes a movie, but the movie that makes the weekend. So all of a sudden, April 4th is a great date. So I think that there is a chance that Captain America could initially or ultimately underperform because the fandom is so loud that it's kind of skewing the tracking. People are like, oh, this is a big deal, it's everywhere in the media, but then you might find it's soft. The support just isn't there. So I'll be very curious to see how that turns out. But I will say that Marvel has beautifully positioned this film to open with no competition, no movies opening opposite it. It has not only does it have the entire weekend to itself, so basically if you want to go to the movies this weekend, unless you're seeing something you missed, you have to see Captain America the Winter Soldier. That's fantastic. I'm surprised nobody tried to counter-program this thing, I guess because of the April date. And then also, it has the whole month of April to itself. Only Rio 2 and Transcendence, as I mentioned yesterday, are any real threat to it, and I don't think they're strong threats. So nobody has come in here and challenged us. Warner Brothers might be regretting that. They should have come in here and tried to handicap, cut Cap off at the knees. They should have put a big movie in here so that they could help their Batman versus Superman, that matchup that has been introduced. I guess they didn't know what it was going to be. That was only recently that Marvel revealed that their movie they would open opposite Batman versus Superman was Captain America 3, but they had to know it would be some Marvel property, and this is like box office warfare. Warner Brothers needs to be going on the offensive. So I also mentioned that I thought that maybe in light of all this big boffo success, if Cap does open with 100, if it does maybe get close to $1 billion, will DC blink? Will they move Batman versus Superman? And I said that potentially the way things are going, there's starting to be an argument to do that. Even though I initially said that I thought that Batman versus Superman would be at least such a spectacle, who would want to miss it? So we'll see. But Marvel's cheating a little bit in that these are kind of like, this Captain America film is almost like an Avengers sub-film. It's not a standalone film. It's not like Thor or Iron Man, I feel. It really is in the universe of the Avengers, which was very clever on Marvel's part. But I don't know if Batman versus Superman will have to move. You can bet they're going to be watching this movie very closely. If Cap 2 does perform to that degree, maybe they will have to move it. I don't know. I haven't seen the film yet. I'm very curious. But I'm telling you, that casual fan who is like, I'm not that into Captain America, despite what everybody else is saying, that person does want to see Batman versus Superman. That Batman versus Superman, what that has going for it is the Batman-Superman characters are so iconic and have been in the pop culture, mainstream pop culture for so much longer than these Marvel characters that they really have that kind of recognition going for them. But let's talk about release strategy. We talked about the domestic strategy just now, about how Marvel has April all to itself. They changed the game. They started summer in April instead of the first weekend of May, which is the traditional release date. Amazing Spider-Man 2 is like, what? We were supposed to kick off the summer, not Captain America 2. But it is. But let's talk about its worldwide strategy. As I said, I feel like everybody has seen Captain America already, and I would have much preferred, I have to say, I would have preferred a day and date release worldwide. I think it would be nice if we could all see it together. I suspect that Marvel's strategy is to have these big numbers going into their weekend here, and these headlines and this buzz to make a big U.S. box office open. But I do think, especially with this movie, which is so anticipated, having to wait a week, I think it deflates the event. It makes me feel like as I said, it makes me feel like I missed the event. I'm seeing it afterwards. Now I know this is the norm for most films, and I don't think that's good either. I mean, I know a number of you will be like, well, we usually have to wait for movies, so welcome to our world. But I think none of us should have to wait. Do a day and date release. For instance, they're doing that with Transcendence. It's going to open in China the same day it opens here in the United States. And Johnny Depp's making a lot of headlines right now in his first Chinese tour. He's going around apparently hugging everybody, playing his guitar, saying, I could live in China. I'd love it. This is a great country. Really being effusive to the point where you're like, wow, Johnny Depp, you are worried about this movie, huh? But, if he can really do a lot of box office overseas in Asia, it could single-handedly save Transcendence. We'll get to that with the second story. But I think that this is a very interesting strategy that Marvel has basically said, hey, you know what, America? We know you're going to go and see Captain America, the Winter Soldier, and they do this for all their movies. We know you're going to see our movie, so we're going to release it overseas first to appeal to the global audience, show them that they're important to us, and then get these headlines and this box office headlines and reviews going into when it opens domestically. And I'm wondering if this is a strategy that maybe other studios might take. I mean, I'm just curious why nobody has seen what Marvel's success has done and decided to go the same route themselves. Are we approaching a time in Hollywood when the foreign box office is so powerful and can save a movie? Need for Speed is making so much money in China. It's like they shouldn't even have bothered to release it here. It's like, will they start to say, well, you know what, who cares when we release it in America? Or, we'll release it here, but we're really going to focus on wooing these moviegoers in other countries. I mean, it's a fascinating change, change of dominance, turn of events, to see who Hollywood is really, catering to and what the most important thing is. And I think Marvel is the pioneer of this. They've basically said, we are a global movie company to the point where we actually favor our foreign box office almost more than our domestic. So I'm curious if you guys agree with that. Do you think it's a good strategy? Or would you prefer that we just do day and date? I mean, enough of this. Movies should be released everywhere at the same time so that none of us have to wait, because it's frustrating. All right, so that's what I want to talk about with Captain America 2. I'm curious if you guys think it will overperform, perform as expected, or underperform. Do you know anybody who's not excited to see Captain America 2? Or are you one of those people? Are you like, meh, I'll check it out, but I'm not totally excited about it. All right, so let's move over to the second story, and that's the power of South Korea. Now, again, Marvel, they are shooting Avengers 2 right now in South Korea. We've been seeing some videos go up online. I saw one the other day of Captain America, a stunt double hanging off of a truck and going over a large bridge, with the Seoul skyline behind him. Joss Whedon did a video saying, hey, Seoul, I'm coming to your city to shoot my movie. Get excited. Really catering to that audience. And the reason why is that, for instance, Frozen, there was an interview with the producer of Frozen the other day in one of the trades, the Hollywood trades, and it mentioned that South Korea was responsible for $77 million of Frozen's foreign gross, the second biggest gross that Frozen has had outside of the United States, and is obviously a key component in Frozen being the most successful animated film of all time. So they're really working hard to appeal to South Korea. This producer said that Disney is going to take a hard look at their release strategy there and why it was so successful. And of course, try and have that and repeat it. And as you can see, Avengers 2 is also noticing how important the South Korea market is. It's also same company, Disney. So perhaps Disney Animation called up Marvel Studios and was like, there's a lot of money in South Korea. You might want to consider filming there. Disney's seeing how important this is, and you're seeing a lot of movies, Transformers, etc., shooting films sequences in Asia. So that even the Dark Knight had a scene in Hong Kong, a wonderful scene, a key scene that was really thrilling and exciting. So you're seeing more movies cater to that audience with a location. I mean, we have yet to see them really cater to these audiences with a cast member. I hope that's next on the list. And it makes me wonder about Big Hero 6. We talked about whitewashing it last week with T.J. Miller being cast as Fred Zilla, the first announced cast member being white. And I know they're going to probably do different voices, and many of you said that. We said, well, in Asian countries, they're going to have different actors doing the voices, so they'll have an Asian actor there. But I don't, why not have a global presence for this actor. Why have to market Big Hero 6 individually in each country with different casts? I think that it would be great to introduce an Asian star to the American audience through a film that's supposed to mix and introduce the East to the West. So I'll be very curious to see if Big Hero 6 can play in this market. If it does, that's going to be fantastic for Disney and could potentially make Big Hero 6 on par with Frozen in terms of box office. I don't know if that's going to happen. I think Frozen is lightning in a bottle, but we'll see. But I think that it's fascinating to see. We've talked a lot about China, but here comes South Korea as a big box office player. And also Japan does very well as well. But they're not making the headlines that South Korea and China are. So that's fascinating. And as you're seeing, these location shoots are indicative of that. So I'm curious to how you guys feel about this. Any viewers in Asia, do you like it when they have a scene in the movie in your hometown? Does that make a difference to you? Or do you want a cast member already? So write your thoughts down below on that. And let's move to the third story of the day, which a number of you wrote to me about, because this broke at CinemaCon late last week, and that is that they're considering doing a cheaper movie ticket. That means like during the week, for instance, they'll say all day, 50% off the ticket. Now, AMC kind of does this every day before noon. You can see a film, but this would be for the whole day. Or for some tickets, I guess in Europe they do this. And another option is like if you see 5 movies during the week, not on the weekend, it's a discounted price. Now, AMC already has the Stubs program, which I'm a member of, which I think is a very good rewards program. For every $100 you spend, you get $10 back. You can spend it on, and that $10 on not just concessions, but also a movie ticket. I think it's a good program. I go to a lot of movies, obviously, so I can go through that pretty fast. And I think for a family, anyone who's spending a lot of money on movies will get that reward pretty frequently, and I think it's effective. But clearly, it's not enough of an incentive because AMC, their very adventurous CEO, who's really making a lot of bold moves, including those like reclining seats, etc. We talked about that last week. He's also really exploring this cheaper ticket option. And so a lot of you asked me what I thought of this. Would it be good for the movie industry? This CEO at AMC said this is something they have to discuss with the studios because they're going to be giving them less money. It's like, do you want to offer your product? Do you want to have a bargain day? Now, as I said, this is something that already happens in Europe, and it's successful. But here's how I feel about it. I don't think a bargain day is a good idea. I would rather they have a rewards program that's maybe more of a reward than the Stubs program if people don't feel that's enough money. I think that this discount should go to the movie buff, not the casual moviegoer who hardly ever goes. I mean, if you don't go that often, you can afford the ticket when you do seldomly go to the movies. Well, I think that this is an issue. I think the person who goes every weekend is the one that needs to be rewarded. And the reason I say that is because that person is going to be respectful, a great audience member. It's going to contribute to the movie-going experience and make it nicer for that person as well. It's both sides benefit from the discount ticket for multiple viewings. I think if you offer an overall cheaper ticket, though, you're going to have people going to the movies who just don't really care about going to the film. They're going to be like, you know what, I only paid $5 to see this, and that's because I was bored. I didn't really have anything to do. I don't really care about this movie. Like, for instance, I went to see Monuments Men, and there were 2 teenage girls in there, and I was like, oh, that seems like, that's not nice. They don't seem like they would like this movie, but I'm glad that they're seeing a movie about history in World War II. Isn't that great? They proceeded to be on their phones texting for the entire movie. At least they were sitting next to me, so I couldn't really see the light that much, but it was really frustrating. And you don't really, especially after that shooting here, you don't really want to go and police these things yourself and be like, you turn off your phone. Also, you just don't want to get into a fight with your fellow moviegoer. So it just was frustrating. And this AMC CEO said that the biggest complaints they get is someone disturbing their experience during the movie and cleanliness of the theater, and of course the restrooms, obviously, and the whole theater in general. So they said AMC is aware of this problem, but interestingly are doing nothing about it. Although they said they would not introduce texting screenings because they felt you paid to see the movie, you should see it. But I feel the cheaper ticket is going to inspire people, certain audience members to go to the movies who normally wouldn't go, or even when they're going, aren't interested. Because those girls had no business going to that movie. I guess they were bored, they wanted to pass the time. This is the only thing that was playing at that time. I don't know why they didn't leave if they didn't enjoy the movie. And so I don't really want people just hanging out in movie theaters. You should go to actively see the movie. And I worry that's what's going to happen with the cheaper ticket. Now, apparently people in Europe are much better behaved than here in the United States. But here in the United States, it's difficult. Very intrusive movie-going experience, and I would actually, as we've said many times here, I would actually rather pay more for my movie to make sure that I had a good time and a good experience that was uninterrupted. And that's something that's also being discussed. For instance, these super tickets where you see the movie a few days early. Paramount's been offering that for World War Z and Anchorman 2, and people have reported back who have tried that out that they really liked that because everybody who went, because they paid more money and were super fans, were very nice and well behaved, and it was a better movie-going experience. They were actively engaged in the film and wanted to have a good time, and it just contributed to everybody's experience. So I think it's interesting that Europe is trying to go after, and other places in the globe are trying to go for a cheaper ticket, but then here in the United States, you have a situation where people are so poorly behaved and no one is policing anyone in the movie theaters that people are actually trying to go for a more expensive ticket. So I'm curious to how you guys feel about it. What do you think of the cheaper ticket? Would you want to go? Do you think it would encourage poor behavior in the theater? Would you prefer a cheaper day where everybody got to go for less money? Or would you prefer to be rewarded for your patronage and only if you went a lot of times would you get this cheaper option? So write your thoughts down below. Those are the 3 stories of the day. Let's go on to the viewer question. This is from Josh Shrek and says, "Hi Grace, do you ever think there will be a day when people stop watching bad films?" This is a great question. I think a lot of us wonder about that. It's a constant thing that we discuss, particularly on Movie Math, where it's like you might not like a movie, but look how much money it made. You can't argue with success. And that's Hollywood's main goal, not to turn out great product, but to turn out great profit. Exactly. See, look, I made a Freudian slip. It's not about product, it's about profit. So I think so that means that the audience has to be the one that takes a stand. The audience has to be the one that says, okay, I'm not going to give you profit because your product is poor. I don't know if that will ever happen though, especially with blockbusters. With small films, sure you have a situation where like a small movie, if it doesn't spark anyone's interest or a certain actor, people don't go. But when you have a big blockbuster movie and everyone makes a big deal about it, and it's a franchise that people to some degree enjoy or have seen or they're invested in, they go because they want to go to the theaters. Going to the theaters still, unbelievably so, is still a pretty good experience. So I made actually a sketch about this back when I was doing early days of Beyond the Trailer when Terminator Salvation came out. That's the Christian Bale one. And I did a sketch about, a big speech like Christian Bale's character. I'll put a link to it down below to that episode saying, we have to be strong. We can't go and see these crappy movies. And then I had someone else in the Resistance come up and tell me and say, hey, you know what? We saw all the other movies. If we want to go to the movies this holiday weekend, this is the only thing we can see. And it's like, all right, let's go. And I think that's the situation. I think Hollywood is very smart in their programming and knowing, that's the clever thing about summer movies. You want to go to the movies. You want to have a nice time. You want to be part of the experience. So even though a movie might not be wonderful, you go and see it anyway. And so I think that until there's another form of entertainment or the theaters just get too bad, I don't know how bad the movies would have to get, honestly, before we're like, you know what, maybe this one will be okay. I just want to go and see a lot of special effects. And so I think that's the situation. I think that for these big, big movies, it would have to get so bad for people to stop going. I think the only thing that might work is that it gets so competitive and so crowded that people become selective that way. When there are 2 movies in a weekend that you go. Like, for instance, Cap's not a good example because everyone's saying it's a great movie, but for instance, if you want to go to the movies this weekend, you have to see Captain America too. And I think generally, I guess when we have situations like this Batman versus Superman versus Captain America 3, that's what I'm talking about, where there are 2 huge movies coming out the same weekend, and there is where quality will make a difference. Or not. Maybe, as I said, maybe people want to see the spectacle. Maybe they want to see DC crash and burn. Or they're just curious because they are more familiar with those characters. There's a lot of other things that come into play here. And I think to some degree, as I said, with the big box office, the big budget special effects films, I don't know if people will ever stop going to see those. I do think, more interestingly, the middle-of-the-road, smaller budget movies that are very good quality have died away because people have stopped going to see those because they don't think it's worth paying the money to see them in the theater. Again, this all boils down to money. This isn't a quality decision. Again, even on the part of the moviegoer, that's a decision in terms of price. What am I getting my money's worth for? This might be a great small movie, but I don't want to go and pay for it on the big screen. I'm going to save my money for that special effects bonanza that needs the big screen. And so we'll see if Netflix comes into the picture. A lot of different things. I think movie going is in flux right now in terms of where we watch movies, how we watch movies. Do we pay more? Do we pay less? Do we see them in a theater? Do we see them on demand at home? Are we going to have a situation where things are not only day and date released worldwide, but on television as well. Just product is released and you can watch it anywhere you want, reapproaching that. I'm very curious to see what happens. I'm curious to how you guys feel about it. Write your thoughts down below. I hope you enjoyed today's kind of movie math extra episode. And let me know what you'd like to see covered tomorrow and any questions you might have. Thanks for watching. Bye.